Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Moores. Skopak. Ballard.
Here.
Here.
Sagaster.
Here.
Rains.
Present.
Wilson.
Present.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I got a full house tonight. Thanks everybody for being here. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So move.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm kind of liking this that I can make a motion and second and be the mayor. I don't. It's going to take a while to get used to that. Item number 1, approval of minutes, February 25th, 2025, regular and executive session. Any questions or comments? Motion to approve.
So move. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 2, bills and financial reports.
I move we pay the bills.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 3, new hires, Community Development Assistant Danielle Doddy. Is that correct? Parks Labor Cletus Ingram. Are they here with us tonight? I see one.
Yeah, and Danielle's here also.
I see two. Okay. If you guys want to come up and shake hands and say hi.
Welcome, Cletus.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi. Greetings.
Hi, Danielle. Good to meet you.
So Danielle will be working downstairs in community development and will do code
I think I
enforcement.
mentioned that one day. Yeah.
And then Cletus will be out with Red's crew working the parks.
Both going to be busy this spring, I'm sure.
Yes.
We've probably got lists for both of them. So. Welcome. Next, request to address the board, Robert Jackson.
Okay, sorry.
Members of the board, Mayor, Thomas, and thank you very much for allowing me to come and address you. I'm a resident of Bolivar. I live just about 2 blocks from SBU on South Pike. I've been here since 2019, and before that I lived in Stockton for about close to 4 years. But I've also lived quite a bit, moved around because of my business, grew up in a urban area in New Orleans, and lived quite a few years in Atlanta, but in other cities such as Albany, Georgia, and places like that. One of the things I've noticed since I've been here has been the strong economy of Bolivar. And one of the things that comes with the economy is growth in business, and you can see that in new construction. I see some new apartments coming up, and particularly up on Aldridge and some of just streets just after off Aldridge. And I said, really what this city needs, because of the traffic and traffic congestion at certain times, because I know it's really a headache for local governments to get street stop lights and those type of things to really manage traffic, is some sort of a transportation system. And one of the things I was thinking about is like a small minibus system, or something that would provide access on the major routes for people who have difficulty with transportation, or have transportation issues. And I was wondering if the city might want to consider forming some sort of a study group or a study committee to take a look at the finances, because I know they're out there. The state has some tremendous opportunities in terms of funding for mass transit or public transit systems in small and mid-sized communities. And I would think Bolivar might qualify for that. I don't know what the parameters are. And there are federal government programs and grants, as well as non-for-profit entities that help small, mid-sized cities get started with public transportation grants and those sort of things. Now you would say, well, why would Bolivar need public transportation? And I put together a list in my proposal, some of the reasons why I think a public transit system, a small one, would help Bolivar, and also outline 3 possible routes. I think it gives people an opportunity because it's hard. Bolivar is not a walkable city. You just don't have sidewalks. You get on some of the major streets, and you either have to almost like walk in traffic or walk in dirt, or it's just not very nice. And it's other than the stoplight at Walmart, if you're trying to cross Springfield Highway, I think that's what the name of it is, it's almost impossible. You're standing there and the cars just flying by, and they don't really care about anybody trying to walk and get across. You have students from SBU. It's very difficult for them. I think they're having some problems with enrollment, and if they could say, hey, you parents, your kids can go on a bus and get down to Walmart, or get down to Burger King, or go to the courthouse, or maybe through transfer get to the public library without having to use their car, that would be a boost in their enrollment, because they're looking for students. And if you have to say, well, you have to have a car to come to our university, that's kind of like it's not very good for them. It's kind of like a black mark in a lot of parents. It helps students. If you're going for like summer school and you've got classes at the middle school, parents don't have to worry if the kid wants to go to the swimming area or to one of the parks. If you have a bus little system that ran up and down Broadway, you could walk from the middle school, catch the bus, and then go down, like I did when I was a kid growing up, and go down to the park, go down to the pool area, go to the public library, and you can do that without having worrying about the parents. Oh, I've got to rush during my lunch hour, go pick up Jimmy and take them to the library for the reading program at summer. You kind of like take that off the parents' headache to-do list during lunch, or at 10 in the morning or at 2 in the afternoon. I know that there, and I hate to say, there are people who have DUIs. And one of the things that when you get a DUI, you lose your license. So as a result, it makes it very difficult for somebody to get to work if they don't have a transportation option to get to work, like the tracker, or if they work at Walmart or work at a small shop or a business. A minibus system running up and down Springfield Highway that could access the major park or CMH would be a boon to a lot of people who want to get to work. What if their car is in the shop? They have no transportation to get to work, and we really want to push people to get to work rather than, oh, I can't, I'm going to have to take the day off, or I'm going to have to do this or do that, and I can't get my car repaired or something. One of the things about getting people into the workforce is transportation. Other issues deal with seniors. Seniors don't really like to drive. We don't. I'm going to be 70 at the end of this year. I really don't want to drive. But if I'm stuck here in this town, I'm going to have to drive. If you had a bus system where I could walk 3 or 4 blocks, catch a bus, go to Walmart, and then come back, or go to the hospital, or go to one of the clinics that CMH has up and down Springfield Avenue, or go to the library, or if I have to go to the funeral home, we could run a route down Broadway from like the funeral home all the way out to Liberty Utilities, and just do it during the 3 or 4 major streets, maybe just 3 streets, just Aldrich, Springfield, and Broadway. It would really help the quality of life in this town. I'm not asking you to do it. I'm not asking you to do anything, but form a committee, study it, get people from inside the community, maybe bring in a couple of people from the schools, maybe bring somebody from SBU in, maybe have somebody from CMH who might think that that's a really good option, because a lot of people say, I have to get to a doctor's appointment. And if you have a bus transit system that does it, would make it a lot easier than having for some senior to have to call that Oates busing. That's embarrassing for a lot of seniors and others. Just I don't want to be seen getting in and out of an Oates bus with my neighbors, whether I live in an apartment or something like that with a car, because a lot of people have some dignity. But if they can walk to a bus stop and simply say, hey, I'm just going to go out and not walk in a nice spring and summer day, that's fine. And of course, if we have winter storms in January, that makes very difficult for anybody to get out. And if the roads are frozen, at least the bus could get them to wherever they need to go, get them to their work, get them to a restaurant, make things a lot easier. And it will, again, quality of life issue, work issue, hospitals, schools, safety for the kids. These are things that need to be discussed and looked at. If you got parks, make the parks usable, not just for people with...
Can I ask a question real quick?
I'm sorry. I'm worried about my time, so I apologize.
Have you heard of Community Connections or been involved with Community Connections here in Bolivar, Polk County? There's a group that meets the first Thursday of every month at the Senior Center at 7:30. And I know this is one of the issues that they have been actively working on. And I know that there's, I think it's a statewide group. It's New Growth Transit.
Yeah.
And they are doing some of what you're, saying, like, rides to doctors and, different things like that. So, what I love the idea, anything you can, make the community better. But if you want, to like be involved and you've got some great ideas, that's the first Thursday of every month at the
In
Senior
the morning at
Center.
7:30
It's
or
7:30 in the morning.
7:30 in the morning, because I didn't think they were open in the evenings, but
Yeah.
wasn't so.
And it's
True.
7:30. It's I make it, which is horribly hard for me. If anybody knows, I'm not a morning person, but they usually have great information. Like I said, this is I think they gave a program 2 months ago on this exact topic.
I'm sorry, I
So.
apologize.
No. And so, for me, I appreciate the passion coming forward. I just want to try to get you connected with, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. We've got, so if you could get up with them with some of your ideas, but if you want to come, like I said, what would that be? Would that be next Thursday?
Yeah.
At 7:30, we're meeting at the Senior Center. So you're more than welcome to come.
Okay.
And,
Is it open, or do I need to make a registration with
Nope.
the senior
Nope.
center the day before?
Anybody can come.
you
Okay.
can come
Yep.
and I'll save you a seat if you want to come. So
That's Thursday morning?
Thursday morning, 7:30. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Yep.
I appreciate it. I guess my time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, Robert.
Questions? All right. Move on to our next item is a special event application. Rohrbach Services Block Party, June 28, 2025, street closure request.
Yes. We want to have our block party.
Which street exactly are you wanting to possibly
Well, I
close
wanted to
down?
do Broadway. We're right there on Broadway now, but they told me Springfield, that was my second
Yeah.
choice, would be easier to
Yeah,
block off.
staff
so-
looked at it. Our recommendation would be just that block north of Broadway on Springfield would be allowable. She also wanted to do Broadway itself, but didn't think that would be feasible.
It's just for 4 hours. It would, on a Saturday, it would just be like that little section from the courthouse to from Springfield to
So-
Maine.
North of Broadway to Springfield. Yeah.
Okay.
What is it?
It's we have our
fundraiser every year. We do a block party, so this year we have a food truck lined up, and we do the dunk tank, and we have games and like putt-putt and different things for the kids, and we have a silent auction. So we provide services for the community for free. So
And what date is that?
June 28th.
June 28th?
Mm-hmm.
And time?
1 to 5.
So that way everybody listening and watching knows, so that
Okay.
way, yeah. So 1
yeah,
to 5.
1 to 5. We'll
yeah.
get flyers out and stuff too.
Okay.
So
And that's right next to your building.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it'd be kind of like if it's on Springfield, where the Baptist Church, their little parking lot for their offices, to right there Broadway, I guess. So
Okay.
it'd be a little bit smaller space, but
Okay.
Melissa, can you talk about what your cause is, the
Yeah.
charity, and what it's about, maybe for the
Um,
board?
yeah. So we have a nonprofit, and we provide services, groups, case management, individual therapy for those who are uninsured, low income. We work with the police department, referrals for the domestic violence. We work with the state children's division cases. So we hook them up with resources, whatever they may need. We work with COM in the hospital and everybody. So
And you also offer the Spot, which
Mhm.
is a kind of a
Yeah.
community
yeah, we do our
resource
groups
center
there.
for.
Yeah.
Awesome. So staff didn't see any issue with closing Springfield for those 4 hours on that day?
That's correct.
Okay.
Sorry, just, do we know if any area
ask
businesses
that
are
next.
affected that are going to be open normally in that window of time?
It's a Saturday.
It's a Saturday, and the
I
Miles
don't
from
disagree, just
Smiles
think
and
the-
the tax place. I don't
Sure.
think they'll be there. So.
I just didn't know if we touch base with
We
any of
haven't.
them. Okay.
But we support it from a staff perspective.
Have you reached out to First Baptist?
No.
I didn't know if they had anything else going on that
I don't-
Saturday or any
I don't know.
conflict.
Usually, their events are more in July and May. So, but we'll be down from the church, so which is
After
where they do
VBS and
most of
before
their
music
stuff.
camp,
So.
Yeah.
Should be okay.
Should be a good window.
So,
to
I mean, if
sneak
staff
in there.
recommends
I
it,
can go talk to the neighbors.
you know, if
if I
staff
need to.
recommends it, I make a motion to approve.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
All right, which location were you specifically approving?
Springfield.
Broadway or
Springfield,
Springfield?
yeah.
Just making
Springfield,
That might
north
be
of Broadway,
cool.
that first block.
Yep,
Mhm.
because both of them were mentioned in the
If
past.
you look
so I
at the
wanna make sure.
map, just X out the Broadway running east-west.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
I had to try.
Nope, that's fine.
Good try.
Okay, so we had a motion, a second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Can you say the date one more time and
June
the
28th.
times?
June 28th, 1 to 5.
Perfect.
So we'll probably be there a few hours early and block it off and set up all our stuff in
Sure.
the morning.
There you go. That way people on YouTube
How to
can
putt.
have that to remember by.
Uh-huh.
You can go practice your putting, John.
Okay.
All right,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to item number 4, Administrator's Report.
Good evening, Board. Few items to share. Carol gave me this information the other day. Applications are way up for city and all of our job postings. We recently had, over the past couple months, beginning of the year, 7 openings, and we've had 137 applicants, which is pretty good. Now, it does include the lifeguards, but we're with our new HR system, we're getting more candidates than we ever have. So I think that's good news. Opens up the number of candidates in our applicant pool. Pretty much filled everywhere except the PD. We're down 5 right now. Unfortunately, we're working on that. We had a couple resignations recently that moved back to their hometown. Nothing we can do about, but we're working on that to get those numbers up, and we have some potential candidates in the pipeline, and hopefully we'll get a few of those filled within the next month or two. All right. We've had some good things happen as far as some of our bids and some of our projects. I think everybody's been by the rec theater and seen the pool tower. It looks really good. They did a really good job. They came here within a couple days, like 6 days, and knocked it out. And they did a great job. I know Todd was really happy with how they did it, and we looked at it, and they did an outstanding job for us. Also, Greenwood Cemetery, I've seen the new sign out there. Rhett worked really hard on that, and his crew put that up. So I think that's a real nice addition. If you remember, that was donated money that paid for that. So that was really good. As far as the pool, if you've been out to the pool, we've done a lot of maintenance out there. As you know, there's something that always needs to be fixed. So thanks to Kyle and Gary and his guys, a lot of that was done in-house. We painted the pool, had to fix some tile. We painted the deck as you walk in there. So a lot of stuff has been done. So I want to thank the maintenance crew who did all that. They worked really hard. So I want to pass on my thanks to them. Just a reminder, we have a maintenance crew. That saves the city a lot of money, that we do a lot of stuff in-house. And they work really hard, and we get a lot of benefit out of them. The pool, so it's ready, filled up. We're going to start the members' morning swim is Monday, and it's going to be open to the public starting the first week of May. So we're almost there. Can't believe it's that time of year. Playground, have you all been out to the rec center? They actually delivered the playground equipment, and I think they actually moved some dirt yesterday. So that's great news. We're hoping 5 to 6 weeks, and that sucker will be done. So we're really happy about that. And ATHCO's been really good to work with, and we look forward to have some kind of opening ceremony when we get that completed. Parking signs, as you know, we're doing parking signs on the square. Kyle's working hard with his crew. We're going to be starting the coring to actually plant the signs there, and that should be starting later this month, and hopefully have everything done hopefully by end of May, depending on how things go. We have a lot of the projects in the works. We have, of course, citywide cleanup and a few other things, but we'll be out there getting those signs up as quickly as we can. Installed some LED lights at Fullerton. We had several lights that went bad on us, so that was $3,200. We replaced those for obviously safety reasons, and we were lucky. We worked with Liberty, and they installed those for free for us, but we got that taken care of. Okay, welcome sign. I'm sure everybody's driven on 13 has seen the welcome sign. We're almost to the finish line. It looks pretty good. We got the lettering up on the south side. I think we're going to start working on the lettering on the north side here next week. And really, other than that, we have some flagpoles to put up, and we're almost there. So just a reminder to the community on kind of the cost breakdown of that. It's $320,000 roughly at this point. We'll know exactly when it's all said and done. The majority of that, all except $20,000, came from donations and grants. So it's really it's a good use of taxpayers' money. $20,000 to get us 2 signs, welcome signs that look really nice, really big, you can see really well for the community. So we're really happy about that, and Kyle and his crew has worked really hard on that. So we're almost there. If you'll see in the packet, we have a rendition of the plaque that will go up at City Hall with everybody that's donated money. So I want everybody to take a look at that. We've been working with the governor and his wife to get the final approvals on that and make sure everything is right. And once the welcome signs are done, we'll have a little ceremony here to dedicate both of those. Okay, DPS, Department of Public Safety Blue Ribbon Department. As you'll see in the packet, I just wanted to make mention of this. This is something that the PD is working on right now. Governor Kehoe announced the launch of Missouri Blue Shield program. Basically, it's a program that recognizes communities dedicated to effective law enforcement and community safety. There's an application process. We're engaged in that right now. And then the board will ask to do a resolution saying we support, these things. So we'll have that probably in late April, everything done. The deadline's June 1st. And once you're approved of that, that opens up money for training and other grant opportunities through the state. So I think it's a good thing, and again, recognizes the hard work that the PD does. Dunnigan Park. I think everybody knows by now that we have new hours. It closes at dusk, and I think it's a lot better for the patrons, and it's been a lot better for Rhett and his crew. So dawn to dusk, I think that way we can maximize the enjoyment of the parks out there. I just want to mention really quickly, Paula and Kyle and others are working together. We're thinking about redesigning the lobby. We've got some plans together, and hopefully we'll have a proposal for the board in the near future on what that looks like, how it's going to be better for our staff, how it's going to be better for the community, and what the cost breakdown are. A lot of the stuff we'll be doing in-house to keep the cost down, but we'll have more of that in the future to talk about. Dog park. Still working on the dog park. We hired a firm that's going to design the dog park for us. We walked the area a couple weeks ago, and now we're just waiting on the actual design proposal. And then we'll come back to the board. We'll work with the person who's going to be donating that land, and also that community group that's going to be involved in fundraising to fine-tune that and keep on moving this project forward. All right, a lot of IT stuff going on. We're syncing our emails to the cloud, doing Windows upgrade. Luckily, thanks to Brent, working hard with J-Mark, we're saving $30,000 from some costs associated with that process, so that's good. And then the emails, the board, we approved we're going to get Aldermen emails. That will happen after the election, so just stay tuned. We're still working on that, so that's something we're working on right now. Audit, where we got our audit, KPM is our auditing company. They're going to be starting next week. It's our annual audit that we have to do. Just a friendly reminder, this is campaign season. We've gotten some calls. You cannot place campaign signs in the right-of-way. You have to get permission from the landowner, from the property owner. So just be aware of that. And also, too, just a reminder, too, because we've got some calls from the post office, you cannot place your flyers within people's mailboxes. That's a no-no for the USPS. So just a friendly reminder. I think that's pretty much it. So any questions of me? We got a pretty full agenda, I know.
So I was just kind of curious if a lot of negative stuff going on about the signs on Facebook. I was just wondering if you could again repeat what you said about the funding of that, funding of the signs.
Okay.
And so we're on camera here, so just make sure that everybody knows that it's mostly funded by individuals or companies. And then also where a person could find the list of those persons that donated. I don't know if it's made available yet or not, or when it will be.
Yeah, well, we're actually going to put a plaque up here at City Hall. We're going to have a ceremony, and there's different levels of donation, right? And but everybody that donates is going to be recognized. Again, it was the project for two signs, two of the welcome signs is $320,000, and all but $20,000 of that comes from donation and grant money.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of talking. You know how that
Sure.
Facebook goes,
Just a little.
So that's a pretty good, and I think if my memory serves, I think majority of that is ARPA money. Yeah, so it's money that.
To piggyback on that, could you remind, I guess, us and the listeners the specific benefits? What is the return on investment that Bolivar anticipates? What is the benefit to the community of having that sign on the highway? Because I think some people are thinking that it's more about the specific wording on the sign and less about maybe the fact of the sign. Just what is it that the city is getting for its $20,000?
Well, I mean, I think we're trying to promote Bolivar. I mean, the way Bolivar's set up on the highway, it's like some cities you go right through the middle of town, right? And it's a little bit different with us. So I think it's definitely it's going to promote our town and hopefully bring more business and just bring positivity to to the city overall. It looks nice. It recognizes somebody of an important person in the state history that's from this area, which is good. So I think there's a lot of benefits that come from it. I mean, somebody else might have an idea of what it brings too. I don't.
Well, I know what we talked about, sort of like what you said, is it is not immediately obvious from the highway that there is a community the size of Bolivar right there. You don't see it when you're
Right.
driving by on 13. And so the idea I think that we talked about in part was that the presence of a sign like that says there's a community that is invested in its town and in its has pride of place that is right off the highway here, and you can't see it from 13, but it's right there. To let people know who are not familiar with the area and with as much traffic as goes by on 13, that the goal is for that to drive economic development for the city, the businesses located within the city.
Yeah, I'd just add that it also reflects, a project that came from our comprehensive plan,
Yes.
as well as the signage that will come up in the downtown corridor. I mean, those things are driven by plans that were, extensive citizen involvement and things that the community desired, and now they're being executed. I know the city's talked about a Bolivar sign on 13 for a number of different times and in different years. I think obviously we are thankful to get it at the cost we're getting it
Right.
now. Yeah.
Right, so something that the city and the citizens of the city thought was worth investing in, and we were able to get a $300,000+ sign for a city investment of $20,000
Yep.
in order to fulfill a goal set by the comprehensive plan. I think
Right.
that's worth pointing
And
out.
it wasn't
Yep.
easy.
Yeah, no, it wasn't, and we very much appreciate
Yeah.
Kyle's work to make that possible, because that price tag was not always going to
No.
be what it ended up being. So
Now, a question I have, because it's a question I've been asked a lot, the breakdown of cost, if somebody wanted to see that, is that something
Sure.
that we could put up on
Yeah.
online so they could?
So
Yeah.
I think ultimately, if the board wants, to just like have that in a detail, I've already given the board at a previous meeting our running detail.
Yeah.
It's the project is not complete yet, so
Yeah.
just to be fair, any information someone would request right now would be partial.
Sure,
But I think
100%.
absolutely, when the project's done, there's no reason we wouldn't want everybody to have that information.
And every-
Anybody can make a
every-
request now for that.
And every contractor, we actually had agreements that went through the board for
Yeah.
approval.
And, and that's what I've had these conversations. I told them, like, hey, they're in our packets in the past if you want to go and look. The problem is sometimes going out and searching it is harder than just getting online and being able to find it right there in front of you. So if we could, that was, but.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Do I have a motion to approve the administrator's report?
so moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Moving on to old business. Police chief candidate search update.
All right, I think everybody knows we're in the thick of hiring a new police chief. And we will go to executive after open and give the potential candidate a chance to talk to the entire board, and then we'll come back to open and make a decision.
How many applications did we end up with? 38?
37, I believe.
37. And they were pretty
Yeah,
wide.
We worked with the Missouri Police Chief Association. We hired them to help us conduct the search.
They came from a pretty wide range of locations and experience, so we had a
That's
good
right. We had a
turnout.
lot of out-of-state candidates. So yeah, it was a good turnout.
Item B in old business, the East Loop update.
Okay, we do have some of our folks from Great River here as well. Jason Civils and Austin Hustler, they're here to answer any technical questions. But before we get to that point, or as you interrupt, that's fine to jump in if you have questions specific as we go along. I'll let them be ready to answer those. But it's important for us. It's been a little while since we've had an East Loop update, so want to bring that to your attention, as well as I think there are very near future some action items for the board. So I noted those in an initial letter there in the packet. But I'll just try to quickly run through these things so that there's clarity. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those as far as our approach here from the staff side. So you'll see there the project status. We have completed conceptual design. Preliminary design is, I think Austin and I were talking the other day, I think about 99%, maybe 100%, but we're checking all those last boxes for the project. And then you see the total cost to date in engineering costs that the city's expended. a bill may have come in that time, but it's roughly $700,000 there. This project's been going on for a number of years. I think it was about 2 years ago next month that I jumped into the project, but it had already begun before that as well in the conceptual design. And of course, if you flash back even maybe 15 or so years before that, it had begun. But on the next pages, you'll see and I assume we have, I don't know if you want to put that up on the screen, Brent, but it's we have just the layout, and we take this just from our design so far. So you have an overview of the north section of the East Loop, and then moving from there, you've got an up close there at an intersection that, of course, has much interest. It will be a roundabout intersection there at the Broadway and East Loop intersection. Certainly, there's questions that arise from that concept for Bolivar. It'll be the first of its kind in our community, and I think it's important to note that we're working closely with MoDOT on that. That's part of their requirement is where that design came in, but it also will be a good traffic control area there.
Just for clarification, just so
Yep.
people know, the
Yep.
city didn't request to put this in. Correct.
No, we're working within the confines of MoDOT's design requirements. And you know, it's a significant part of the cost. You'll see that breakdown here in a minute. But yeah, there's only so much option you have, and as much as we had a lot of initial pushback and back and forth with MoDOT, but they are the authority having the jurisdiction on that state highway there, so that's what's being designed. But if you look at the south section overview, we did have some success in that back and forth, and in the south section there will be just standard T intersections there, both on Mount Gilead, that's a city portion, but then also on the Springfield Avenue, and then you have some up close sections of that road section. But the next thing that I would just point the board's attention to is something I have shared with the board in the past, but I think we have probably some new board members since the last time we've shared this, as well as just a reminder to the board and the community why why I believe this project is something that we've endeavored to consider and to complete, and that's because it opens a significant commercial corridor that does not currently exist within the community. Often that's done through developers. They often will develop their own infrastructure, and there would still be infrastructure here that would need to be developed individually by those developers, but by the installation of this significant infrastructure, you have the potential to open quite a bit of commercial development. So it was about a year ago that I took these numbers and projected revenue over a 12-year span of development, and then we began that not until 2028. And then I've encouraged you in these numbers. These numbers are reflective of other corridors. So what we did is we took the same frontage along Springfield Avenue and then the same amount of frontage along Broadway to reflect these both in the north and south. So they are reflective of real data. But I think staff, from my perspective, I'm more comfortable with a conservative, half projection. But even at that, you see that there is a significant revenue there, sales tax revenue, and just the opening up for additional commercial corridors. We only have, and a city has to plan for the future, right? You only have so much commercially developable area. And part of this project would obviously be to open the potential of that. And I know that's been the goal that the board and all has expressed in the past. So I just remind of that and give those numbers so people have that in front of them as well. Well, if you turn to the next page, the East Loop, or have on your packet there, the East Loop projected costs. These have been updated. You have already seen a form in the past similar to this, but I'll just note this again because it's been a while since we've gone over this. The total project cost is reflected there at the top left. You'll see the estimated construction costs broken down from the north and south, and then further broken down for the roadway section and the intersection section on each of those corridors. And you'll note why when we look at the funding available there for that breakdown. But that equals a total of $15.7 million. This is obviously a significant infrastructure project. And then as you jump over to estimated design costs, we're nearing that threshold, but we're at 1.1 million roughly for that, and that brings us to an estimated total cost for the project of $16.8 million. Again, a significant project. Well, some of the funding sources that we have already acquired are there on the left as you work down that side of the page in the current funding sources. We acquired what was called, or normally referred to as the governor's cost share. That was a program throughout the state through MoDOT. Quite a large number of communities, applied for that. The county here in Polk County also applied for that for some funding. We applied and we sought. Well, we saw it as I think the total submission was for about $13 million. We were granted a 25% reimbursement of that total cost. So how that breaks down, this is an important element to understand about the governor's cost share. Governor's cost share breaks down as a 75-25. So they gave us that requested dollar amount. It was about $13.35 million in that request. But that breaks down at a 25 to 75%. 25 from the state, 75% from the city. So it's just important to note that as we work through decisions, I think that the board needs to begin weighing about how ultimately the project is funded. After that, we've also acquired, or actually I think slightly before that, we acquired a federal HUD earmark, essentially $2.5 million there. That has some restrictions to the overall project. It's 100% reimbursable for our north and south design and for construction of the north. And but the good news about that, there aren't any additional matching funds to that, so that's quite significant. Then we have some projected funding sources that I think are important to note. We will very soon, within probably the next 2 weeks, we'll submit our MoDOT 50-50 cost share for both of the intersections, both of the intersections that abut the MoDOT right away, so the Springfield Avenue intersection and the Broadway intersection, and those cost shares then there are reflective of those values. So that roundabout is a significant cost. You see that $2.9 million is the cost of roundabout. We are submitting an application to fund that 50-50 through the MoDOT cost share. That would take the cost of that down to just under $1.5 million. And then the same thing, obviously the intersection, the T intersection on the south side is considerably less expensive at $800,000, but again, we will seek a 50-50 cost share. We've been engaged with MoDOT in that process for, actually, we're coming right up on a year that we've been actively engaging in conversations. I think we feel as good as you can feel about submitting an application there and that being approved. It's not guaranteed, it's not done yet, but we have gone back and forth checking a lot of boxes to make that a really doable application. So the breakdown of all that is shown on the right. If we acquired no additional funding, the cost of the city would be, we could start writing checks, as soon as you could get the estimates out for construction, the bids out and everything. And that cost to the city, utilizing the governor's cost share and the MoDOT 50-50 and the HUD earmark, the cost to the city would be roughly $9.3 million. So if you see that, that's an important number to see. That translates over to our next page of some funding options. This is the area that I think the board needs to, in the near future, probably, sometime in later April meeting or early May, it's important to start making the decision on our funding plan, because, well, it just helps to guide the staff and, what we need to approach, as well as Great River as they're being active in that funding plan as well with us. So you look at, I don't want to belabor this too long, but I just want to move quickly through these numbers. If you look at these funding plan strategies, this is just something that I have tried to give you a concept of where we're at with the money and where we could potentially go, given your guidance and ultimate desire of how you want to approach it. So the first option essentially reflects a phased construction. So I'm looking at option A. The orange boxes up at the top, they just break down again those numbers from the first page, the $9.37 million for the total cost of the city at the funding we have right now. Option A just shows you how you could phase out that cost. Okay, we could say, yes, we want to go for that. We'd like to phase it, in a phase 1 and a phase 2. Phase 1 would be full design and completion, would be acquiring right of way and begin the construction there. That would be the north construction in that phase 1, and then acquiring right of way on the south section. Then you could fund the construction of the south either concurrently, if the board wanted to spend that money, or attempt in any of these cases to apply for grants to offset that. So option A just breaks down a method for utilizing what we have right now as far as funding options. Option B indicates a little bit different approach here in the initial phase, in what I would call like a phase 1 approach. And that would be to design the north and south, and then to construct both north and south intersections, and to acquire the right-of-way in the entire corridor immediately. If we did that, the costs from the city we would utilize all of the $2.5 million earmark in that phase, and the additional costs to the city would be roughly $890,000 in that phase. That would take a couple years, but when we get to the MoDOT, I'll let the guys from Great River kind of answer that in more detail of timing. But when we get into that, MoDOT cost share 50-50, if we acquire that, that project's going to begin. That work will begin. So not a huge amount of time for that first phase. Then we would have another $8.48 million that would be left for the total project, and the city could project that out as long as they wanted, or just go ahead and begin to fund that immediately, send that out for bids. Option C, which is probably, as I review it, is one that some format of that. Ultimately, these are just recommendations, but it's probably a route that we should consider. And that is the same as option B, phase 1. So again, I'll repeat, it's the design of the entire corridor. That's beneficial to us when we're applying for grants and things like that. We would be shovel ready on the entire corridor because we would design it completely. We would construct the north and south intersections, and we would acquire all of the right-of-way immediately in that first phase. So same initial cost there at that $890,000, getting both intersections constructed. But moving into the second phase of that, we could, in this option, delay full construction of the north and south until additional funds are acquired, and then the board could set some grant goals for us to reach, which would, ideally we would love to see something like an 80-20 match. That would take the entire cost of the project you see reflected there down to 2.32 plus the 890, so just over 3 million, about 3.2 million for the project. that's maybe ambitious. There's only so many funding options out there. 50-50 match might be preferable. There is some risk in that, though. The governor's cost share that is funding that's available to us right now, that's allocated annually. The guys might be able to speak to any speculation on that, but I think ultimately we'd be speculating somewhat. There is a commitment to that. It doesn't seem like it's just hanging by a thread, that kind of concept. I'm not trying to introduce any fear associated with that, but it's just something to be aware of. And so again, I'm not looking for you to say let's do this tonight or anything like that. I think it's something that needs to have some thought from the board, further conversation as you see fit tonight or another meeting. But I think what's important is for the staff, for us to understand this is the goal of the construction for this project. We want to see it constructed sooner. So we would obviously, nothing's gonna stop us from applying for grants that are out there. We're not going to say, oh, okay, well, let's just start writing checks. We're not going to make any effort at any additional funding sources. Anything we see that seems to fit this, we're going to obviously go after. But there's a different approach to saying we're restraining, going out to bid until we've acquired those funds, or we're ready with the funds that we've already acquired there at the governor's cost share, 75-25. So any questions for me on this setup? I know it's a bunch of numbers and maybe something that needs to be mulled over. Yes.
I have at least 2 questions.
Okay, at least 2.
So first of all, just to make sure I'm understanding, in this option C where you said forego the 75-25 governor's cost share, what I'm hearing you say, and you can correct me if I have this wrong, is not that there's a specific expiration date on those funds, but that because they're reimbursement funds, there's just always a risk that something will change with the sort of right that we have to that money from the state. And the sooner we spend the money and get that reimbursement, we're not waiting and hoping that nothing changes. Is that accurate?
You want to speak to it more? You probably more experience with it.
All right, so those that don't know, I'm Jason Civils. I own Great River Engineering. I live just about a mile north of town. So, and then Austin, here's our project manager. He's from Hermitage, so don't hold that against him. But let's talk real quick. The governor's cost share, we can get basically extensions to infinity. Eventually, let's say it takes 30 years, they're probably going to say, hey, we're no longer going to give you the money.
Right.
They may do away with the program. Who knows? It's a little bit at risk. So it's money in our hand.
Right.
It's not the greatest money that we would hope for in our hand, but it's some money. We applied at 100%. So that grant came out. They said, hey, we're going to give 100% funding to some communities. And so we said, hey, we'd like to have 100% funding. Anybody would. Well, they came back and they said, well, we'll give you 25. We said, well, we'll take some money over no money, or the promise of some money over no money. And so that's why it's being held. There is, in theory, no expiration, but logic tells us that there is eventually some expiration to that, or it is at risk.
Sure. Okay, then my second question has to do with understanding how the 75-25 is allocated. Is it we get 25% of the receipts that we turn back into them, or we can turn in receipts for up to 25% of the total projected cost, but we could have it be the first 25% that we spend? Does that make sense?
Every dollar you spend, 25 cents back, not counting engineering, not counting right away.
Right, only construction.
Or,
okay.
Or counting the intersections that we do another.
Yeah,
it doesn't overlap over those funds.
None of those funds count towards our 75%. But other grant funds that we potentially could receive, could we use those as our 75% or no?
Possibly.
Okay.
Possibly. So let me talk a little bit about that. So a couple things real quick, and then sorry. Austin can talk more about the project, but let's talk about just money on the money side. You guys, I think I came here about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and we talked a little bit about money. We had $0 on the table. We've put together a number of grant applications for different things around town. We've been very successful, Albany and stuff like that. Kyle's been great to work with on that stuff. This year, we started at 0. We've been able to raise a decent amount of capital through grants. If we get to full design, if we get to full permitting, and if we get to full right-of-way, we have a shovel-ready project, okay? Whenever the new grants come out, So there's one grant that's kind of the holy grail of grants for us. It's called the Build Grant. It was called the RAISE Grant under the Biden administration. It's called the Tiger Grant under the Obama administration. Obama called it Tiger. Trump called it Build. Biden called it RAISE. Trump renamed all the existing ones to Build last week because I'm doing one for Warsaw. Warsaw got some of it, but that grant program could potentially pay for almost all of this or a large portion of this. Could be that 80-20. Could, you can kind of pick what your match is going to be on that. The biggest part of the score is project readiness.
Okay.
Their worry is, the federal government's worry is on these is, if I give you $10 million and you don't spend it, then I didn't put $10 million in the economy. It just kind of sits in this earmark. If we have under all of these project ready, i.e., and their concerns are you're going to get stuck in right away, you're going to get stuck in environmental. We get those approved, and then we get those intersections taken care of as well. Then we apply like heck for those additional grants. We might be successful. Can't guarantee it. Warsaw's managed to get 2, so Springfield's managed to get 2. Whenever you're in an area that strongly politically matches the administration, you have a much higher chance. So the next 4 years we'll have a much higher chance than we would under a different administration.
Sure.
That's just a fact of it. If you look at a map of it, it matches year after year after year. So we have a decent shot of doing that. We would involve every bit of political capital that we could get our hands on. We would be calling all of our senators, things of that nature, to try to get them to write letters of support. Never had an issue with them supporting, regardless of which side of the aisle they're on. They always want to support local stuff. So I think we'll get good support from that. We will push as much as we can on that to try to get that holy grail, for lack of a better term, grant, which would be that build grant. There are always additional funding sources that sometimes come out. And so where we're at, if it was my money, I would probably do C, risk my 25% in hopes that I can get better. I know that might a bird in the hand's worth something, but it's a lot of money out of pocket.
Sure.
And so if we can avoid that. Real quick, I want to make sure we clear the air on the roundabout. MoDOT didn't give us a choice.
Thank you.
MoDOT is worried about the accidents that have happened there before we're talking about our intersection. They're going to put a roundabout there or have us put one there. We're able to get that funded partially through MoDOT and allow us to have this road connect. Additionally, they will not hardly entertain the idea of a stoplight anymore because they have to maintain them. Roundabouts, in theory, you don't have to maintain. You don't have a power bill. You don't have to make sure the timing signal works. You don't have to worry about it going out. They want roundabouts. We're going to get one, whether we want it or not. That was not a decision by the board, not a decision by us in the engineering team. Mathematically, on paper, they work. They're also a pain to drive through. I admit both of those. It's kind of like a J-turn. It's hard to hit somebody whenever you can look them right in the face before you run into them, but they're annoying to drive through. So I do want to, make sure we're clear with everybody. That was not a decision made at your level or our level. That came from the owner of the road.
And just to make sure I understand what you're saying about option C, you're saying risk the cost share, but it's not like a guarantee that the cost share disappears. It's just
Correct.
The longer we wait, the less certain that eventually becomes. And if you're talking about trying to hit the window of the next 4 years, that's not a huge, I assume, not as in, it's not 30 years, right? It's within the next 4 years that we would have an idea of whether that's our best funding or whether we have something
Yeah, we wouldn't,
better.
like, we're not going to send a letter and say, hey, take us out of that
Right.
loop of that cost share fund. We want to hold on to that as, until we don't need it.
Makes sense to me.
Additionally, I did a project with the Greene County. It was not popular with the people that live there, but it was popular with a lot of citizens. Republic Road, if you've been down there where it ends at, Kansas Extension, where it ends at Republic Road. We did that project where it continues on. That took 25 years for the county. They got the right of way. They did the project readiness. They hired us as part of a team that we helped lead to design all that. They were able to secure some funding from MoDOT and some grant funding to help pay for a large portion of that. That was a really, really expensive road 'cause there's actually 4 lanes basically worth there, and there's some really big bridges on that. But at the same time, that's a textbook this type of project. It took them 20 years. They actually got most of the right of way organically. So whenever somebody would come up with a property for sale, they would step in there and say, "Hey, let me buy that." They bought it little bitty parcel by little bitty parcel. Or if somebody did a subdivision, they had it laid out, and they said, "No, you got to give us a right of way through that subdivision." That was a very long-term project, but it shows that today you can drive down a road.
Right.
So it shows that also if you watch on YouTube, you can drive down the trail because some old lady did that already too. But it shows that there is a goal in the end that can be obtained.
Thank you.
So that 2.5 million HUD earmark, so is that like the state, it could go away, or is it for there for sure?
It's for there for sure because we're going to spend most all of it within the next year or so. And then secondarily, that cost share, the governor's cost share, the MoDOT cost share, that's the 50-50, that is local funds, state funds, and so you can usually use HUD to help match that, so you can kind of leverage those dollars together. There's a lot of murky water rules. Whenever you get a federal dollar, you can't match a federal dollar with another federal dollar, but you can match a state dollar with a federal dollar or vice versa. So it depends on which pot of money the money originally came out of, is whether it can count as a match or not a match. So we're navigating those waters. But for the most part, we anticipate a great shot at the 50-50 cost share. MoDOT really wants to put a roundabout there, and they'd love for you to pay half of it. That's the truth.
No, that makes sense.
And additionally, the HUD grant is there as well to help out.
Yeah, the first phase of B and C both contemplate using all of that earmark immediately, and that's why the additional cost of the city for all of that is just
Lower.
under 900.
So the only funding source identified so far that would not be used up under B and C is that governor's cost share. Everything else we're planning to go ahead under either of those scenarios.
Yeah.
We would be spending to get us to the project readiness level,
That's right.
get all of that done.
Correct.
You're hoping tonight for guidance for staff, or you're just
No.
letting us know you're gonna want guidance from staff in the
I think
future?
this is significant enough that I needed to give it to you in this setting so that you'd have time to give guidance at a future time. So just so that I expect that there may be questions that come up, that you can't think of off the top of your head, and that's fine, or citizens bring something to your attention, I'd be happy to answer those, relay them to our guys at Great River. They've been effective in helping us get these things answered. So yeah.
Thank you.
He's been working with MoDOT quite a bit.
Yeah, Austin Hoster, like Jason said, I'm from Hermitage, so I came up to Bolivar quite a bit during my childhood because this is where you go to the store or go to eat something. So I appreciate the opportunity to work on this project. It's pretty cool whenever you have a childhood memory that kind of relates to it. But the MoDOT cost share, so April 11th is the application deadline. We're on track to hit that. Like these guys have said, we've been working with MoDOT for over a year now, several years at this point. So they're well aware of the project. Their main concern with the cost share is making sure that the design is far enough along that we aren't going to experience any unforeseen costs whenever we get to construction. And we are pretty much done with preliminary plans, 85-90% of the way done for the entire design. And so we're pretty confident on the costs we have, and so is MoDOT. And so that just helps our chances. So April 11th is that cost share application deadline. The committee to go through all the applications and make decision meets in June, and then probably I would say August we'd hear about those decisions, maybe sooner. But as far as the timeline after that, usually it takes a while to get some kind of program funding agreement in place between the city and the state. So we'd be looking at the beginning of next year probably before we'd even be able to move on bidding out any sort of project with those funds. So that's the timeline we're looking at right now for that cost share.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can you kind of reevaluate or re-explain what we've been doing the last year or so? I know the environmental permitting stuff has been kind of a process, and where we're at with some of that.
Yeah. So whenever we use the HUD funds, we have to get what's called a FONSI, which is a finding of no significant impacts, basically showing that we're not causing cultural or ecological disasters. We don't have anything like, I use examples that I've got. In Saline County, I am in a large settlement of Native Americans, and we have to sift every piece of dirt that comes out of there through a 3/8 sift by hand. It's very hard to build a bridge that way. I've got a project down in Taney County that is adjacent to a cemetery that turns out was used for hundreds of years before the cemetery had a fence around it. So we're not really sure where the bodies are and where they're not. So we're afraid we're going to find them, so we're not allowed to actually dig to build a road. Basically, those types of things. We've been going through the checklist. It's a very cumbersome process to make sure that we don't run into anything. We've had really no hiccups so far. It's just very time-consuming. We've navigated that. We've had no significant findings and no real issues. The only real issue, to my knowledge, and Austin, correct me if I'm wrong, is whenever you go to clear trees on a federally funded or a funded project, there's only a certain time window you're allowed to clear trees. Same as like on Albany. We have to clear trees before a certain date because bats may want to use them for habitat. Bats are a protected species. And so during the winter, the bat's not going to use the tree, so you're allowed to cut the tree down. Then come spring, once you hit a certain date, I think it's early April or April 1st, you're not allowed to cut the trees anymore until the fall. So we just would want to time any tree clearing as needed. There's some caveats around that. For example, out of Mockingbird Hill, we got the right-of-way ahead of time. The county went out there and just laid all the trees down. You don't even have to clean the trees up. You just have to have them laying down. The county crews went out there and cut all the trees down, laid them down, and the contractor came and cleaned it up once the bid came out. So as long as the trees aren't standing, you're allowed to do that. If they're standing in June, you kind of can't do anything to them until the fall. But that's just one of the environmental conditions. We have to show basically no adverse impacts, all that type of stuff. We have to show all the proper property information. So we've been working through all those little details. We're in a little bit of a conundrum because part of that's currently in the county, part of that's currently in the city. We anticipate it'll all be in the city whenever we're finished. That said, National Flood Insurance Program for the county doesn't exist at all. Inside the city, it somewhat exists, and it's mapped. So navigating through the proper channels for that, because there's nobody at the county, it would be basically I do most of the county engineering, so I would write a letter myself saying that we don't even abide by the NFIP. It's not even an option. So we don't really recognize that, so we can't really say whether it impacts us or not. But at the same time, it's a little messy because HUD doesn't fully understand that because they're from a place where everybody partakes in that all the time. Mm-hmm. And so we're working through some of those issues. Nothing other than jump through some hoops. It's, hey, here's a bunch of free money, but you gotta jump for it. And so that's kind of what we're doing. That's a big part of it. And then Austin's been leading the actual design of it, and we've ran into a number of different issues as far as stormwater goes, just making sure we don't cause any stormwater issues and make sure that we keep it where it can be nice commercial or residential development in the future. And he's come up with some innovative solutions to help address that.
One last question. The right-of-way process and land acquisition, is that, where are we at in that?
Okay, so the right-of-way process, first of all, you have to have your FONSI, or you have to have your A date. Basically, you have to be approved with no issues with environmental first. Once you get that approved, then you can start to acquire right-of-way. The right-of-way process is you meet with the landowners. They have a right to financial compensation. They have an option to donate. And then get the value basically off on their taxes. We have ran into a mixture of that locally over the years. Probably 95% donating or donating for the value of their taxes. We've met with a number of the landowners out there, especially on the north side. Everybody's pretty excited about this. We don't anticipate there to be much issues in the north side right away. The south side, I apologize, has it sold? Okay.
No.
So we'll work through that as well. Both sides, I don't think, are necessarily opposed to it by any means. We've not been told absolutely not, no road necessarily. We have especially on the north side, they're ready for us to turn dirt tomorrow. I mean, they're excited about it, especially.
Does that include the right-of-ways for the roundabout, or does MoDOT get involved in that
We'll have to
somehow?
work with that. It makes for uncomfortable vet visits with my dog, but I've had to assure them we're not taking their building. We would not, take an existing business. So we would have to just meet with them and work through the right-of-way process for that. It would take a little bit of yard space out of both sides, and then we're trying to do things like, you have the open ditch. You'd put it in a box culvert, so that way we save some space and spaces. And Austin's really been working on trying to minimize that impact. You still need to make it big enough so you can get a big trailer through there, because you have semi-truck traffic, you have big trailers, things like that nature. That is something else to note. Came up earlier that it could potentially, long term, this will help reduce impacts to the square, to Springfield Avenue. I mean, I have a 48-foot enclosure for the race car, and I come right down the Springfield Avenue because I live off on Albany Street. And so if this is, I'm going to cut out to D Highway and just go around the town, so that way I don't have to take that trailer through town.
Sure. Can you kind of also go over the entrance requirements for that roundabout? That's going to move some of the ins and outs for some of those businesses quite a bit?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's gonna. You really don't want to have an entrance directly at the roundabout, and Austin can talk a little bit more about that. But some of that's up for negotiation as well through the right-of-way process. Austin, you want to talk a little bit about the access control?
Yeah, so hopefully you can see in maybe one of the exhibits that's kind of more zoomed in on the roundabout. And again, throughout this whole process, most of the decisions have been driven by MoDOT. We tried to keep some of those driveways tied back into the road, at least to where they'd be at least a right-in, right-out maybe, if they were really close to the intersection. But ultimately, MoDOT wanted us to move some of those driveways further away. So the driveway to the veterinary office is going to move to the west as of right now. Like Jason said, that could change during negotiations. That could become a right-in, right-out. It wouldn't be a full access, meaning you couldn't turn left out of the veterinary's office, but you could at least go right in, right out there. So that driveway would be moved down to the west, and kind of it'd be a shared driveway situation. Same with the gas station there on the corner, moving that driveway down to basically across from the driveway that goes to the treatment plant down there. Again, all driven by MoDOT. That could change during right-of-way negotiations if the property owner gives fits and has concerns. And yes, and then as part of the East Loop, as it comes into the roundabout, right now that gas station, that section of right-of-way that you have there existing, it's just basically part of the parking lot for the gas station currently. With the new road coming in, we would basically kind of cut that off, and you'd have some grass in there in between the road and the new right-of-way. And then so we'd be providing another access, another driveway to the gas station a little bit further south off of the East Loop Road, as well as the property on the other side directly across from the gas station. So.
And no impact to the trailer sales. They're far enough back.
I will also note that you notice kind of the weird shape on the inside of the roundabout. Again, driven by MoDOT, but just so you guys know, if years down the road when it gets built and the Google images come out and people are like, what is this weird shape? That's really for oversized vehicles. MoDOT had a concern about oversized vehicles getting through the roundabout. Really just the Highway 32 to north on Highway D was their only concern. So that's why it's shaped like that for oversized vehicles. And I think they said they get maybe 5 of those permits a year through this intersection. So we made a weird looking roundabout for 5 vehicles a year, but that's what we had to do to get it through. So
pretty standard. No, we're getting far enough along in the process where this stuff's getting closer and closer every day, so it's going to become a bigger issue. Of course, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew some of the hurdles that might not deter the project, but slow it down a little bit.
Just one thing that Jason noted is some of if a property owners, might wonder why hasn't there been more interaction with the property owner, and some of that's restricted because of the funding mechanism and waiting. We're bound to wait
for those negotiations until we receive that A date. So,
Sure.
you know, it's not an ignoring or trying to leave anybody out of the conversation by any means. Yeah.
We legally cannot have a formal conversation. You know, I cannot go to you and say, Justin, would you donate your land for this, or can I buy your land for this? I can't have that formal of conversation. Now, I can share some details, if it's okay with the city, with those people. At the same time, we recognize that they may have concerns. We don't live in a void, but we're trying to balance MoDOT's access rules for their roundabout and create a safe intersection, because eventually MoDOT's, even if we cancel all this, MoDOT's going to build their own roundabout, not ask anybody. Just do it at some point on this intersection.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Anybody have any other questions?
Well, just the last thing
Go ahead.
I would note that is in the notes there on the first page is, I think that another thing, again, not looking for any action on this tonight, but is that the board needs to consider if they want to approach the naming of the East Loop. East Loop has been the project identifier that has, at least never in my understanding, been the intent, you know, to name the new roadway. That Pomme de Terre is the joining moving north, but Highway D is the more common recognition. So a project of this significance, I want to put to the board that, you know, you want to consider whether you want to, you know, have some sort of process for naming that. So I put some detail in the notes. Again, not looking for any action on that tonight. So.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Don't go too far, Kyle.
Yeah.
Next item is Albany project update.
Okay. Well, I don't think this one will take us long. Obviously, a smaller project, but still significant project, one that we have been working on for a number of years as well. And we acquired multiple funding sources for this. I don't want to belabor that point, but just so the public, anyone listening would know that, we have just under $1.5 million in a total project here. The projected city cost is roughly $100,000 on that, so quite a significant investment for us at a pretty marginal cost when you consider overall. So in the packet is the engineering, just a cutout from our engineering design. You see a realignment of South Albany, and then our addition of a walking trail along the roadway, and then over some new box culvert installation along that. So I think people are pretty familiar with this project. We've talked about it a lot. Wanted to bring it back to your attention, one, just for an update, but also to let you know and let citizens know. We'll have more signage as the time draws near, but we do expect for mobilization to begin on July 7th. That week, and so the project will begin at that time. The reason we couldn't begin sooner is primarily because the construction of the box culverts, they're on order. Those things have to be cast, and so they have quite a lead time. I think it was about 6 or 7 month lead time, so we've already been moving on that. The staff's been, meeting with the contractors. We've been working with Liberty and Windstream about relocation of utilities during the construction and all that. So the project is ongoing already, but the real mobilization on the site will begin in July. And then I have just a brief breakdown of Emery Sapp was the contractor that was selected, and there's a brief breakdown of their projected timeline. So you'll see completion there before Thanksgiving. That's the goal there. So any questions about that project? Okay. Yeah, we'll have lots of signage out on the site. We'll have more Facebook announcement, things like that, because there will be a phase in that where South Albany, at least a lane, will have to be closed at a time, and possibly the whole roadway for a briefer amount of time as we load those culverts in and things like that. So, okay, thank you.
Nice. Thank you, Kyle. Moving on to new business, citywide cleanup, week of April 28th. Is that you, Thomas? Or
Yeah. I just want board approval to move forward with that.
We're going to do like we did last year. Everything needs to be out Sunday night.
Absolutely.
1 week.
Yeah.
Try to knock it out systematic manner as fast as we can. I think last year we did it in 2 weeks.
Yep.
We'll make sure we advertise. We'll put out the schedule on social media, to the newspaper, and you'll know what day your stuff needs to be out on the street, and the crew will come by and pick it up. So just need approval to move forward because it does cost a little bit of money. We'll try to minimize that cost, but it was budgeted for.
Just to emphasize, if the board sets April 28th, that is the day to have items out at the street. We'll give more details, but anything placed after April 28th is likely to not be picked up because it won't meet the deadline. And we do that because it's really the only way to efficiently, complete the project citywide. So it's not to limit people, but hopefully we give enough notice here. If that date is set, it needs to be out by the morning of the 28th. So.
I move we go ahead and establish that date of April 28th. That's the start, right? The start date.
Yes, sir. That would be the start.
Second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good deal. Item B, Missouri Beef Days sponsorship.
Yeah, you'll see in the packet an invoice. We do this every year. It's the city's support of Beef Days. It's $2,500, and it's been budgeted for. So just added transparency, I would like to get the board approval to move forward and pay this invoice.
Real quick before you do that, can you remind us what the stats were on how many folks we had? I know we had, and you may not know off the top of your head, but last year, ballpark of how many people are coming to town that this event is drawing.
I don't have that in my head. Sorry.
Because I know that's been a huge part of why the board has chosen to sponsor this event is it draws people to the community for the multiple events that week to be spending dollars at local businesses, and it's hundreds of people that are coming in for multiple events throughout the week.
They're expecting quite more.
A bigger crowd this year.
Yes, because they went to the Missouri National Beef Association.
Okay.
And they've got people from Arizona and Texas coming up.
Wonderful. Yeah. So again, it's the idea is that it's a benefit to the local economy to have this event take place in Bolivar, and that's a big part of why the city has chosen to support it. So that's all. Were you going to make a motion, Zach?
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we spend $2,500 for Beef Days.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item C, records retention and disposition list.
Yeah, so this is just a request by the board to allow us to dispose of records pursuant to the statutes.
This is just informational. We don't need a motion.
I think you want a motion, Paula?
Either way, we do it either way.
Okay. I feel like we have this conversation every time about whether we need the motion.
Well, we did last time.
Okay. I move we get rid of the records that we've said we'll get rid of according to our policy and state law.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Definition of formality.
Mm-hmm.
Item D, golf cart lease proposal.
Okay, so this was a bid we put out, and I, as you recall, I got verbal approval from all the aldermen to move forward on this. We needed to do that in a quick manner to make sure we got these on order. 'Cause if we didn't get these on order, it was going to be a delay of a couple months. But again, we had only one submission to the bid, and what the plan is sell back our existing carts to this company and use that towards the lease financing through them. So under this program, we would get back roughly $32,000, and then we would lease 20 carts at $750 a month. So that increases our number of carts, which was an issue for us at the golf course. There were times where we didn't have enough for the demand. So that gives us more carts, new carts, and the good thing about this lease program is the major maintenance things are covered by the lease through this company.
So you need a formal motion and approval?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item E, secure gate access for public works property.
That's okay.
This is a project that's been identified, I think, for a couple of years actually, but we went ahead and had budgeted for and put a PO on last year because we went out for bid. However, we only received one bid response and then engaged with some additional conversations seeking some additional responses there for that project. So the totality of the project would be to install a secure gate, so electric gate there at Public Works. That's it's a shop that we come in and out of a lot, but there's a lot of times in the day that a lot of our staff will be gone from there. The shop is open. It's also a large area. Even if we have maybe a mechanic on the site, they might be only one or two folks that are there. And so we just really need secure access. As far as like just getting out of the truck and opening the gate every time, it's just not really feasible in the normal workday because there's not enough distance to get off of Broadway at certain times. So it's something that's been identified as a needed project. We budgeted for it last year. We have a PO for that, but and that's detailed there. And so we're recommending to go not with the bid responder and to go with Gooseberry Creek out of Buffalo, Missouri. They did respond and have met on site and to review that. And ultimately, their price reflects the same scope of work that the bid offered. So
It's budgeted and it's your recommendation. I make a motion we go with staff recommendation.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That total, for anybody that's wondering, is $10,764.54. Item F, vehicle auction, out-of-service PD vehicle.
Yeah, just getting approval to move forward with putting this up for auction, get a little money back for it. It's no longer in service for us.
The 2018 Ford Explorer was 63,000 miles.
Make the motion, we put it out for auction.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Cool. Item G, bill number 2025-21, an ordinance authorizing the city of Bolivar to declare and file restrictive covenants on certain real estate at request of Missouri Department of Natural Resources.
First reading.
Second.
This is bill number 2025-21, ordinance number 4043, an ordinance authorizing the city of Bolivar to declare and file restrictive covenants on certain real estate at the request of Missouri Department of Natural Resources.
Second reading.
Kyle, do you want to update us on what exactly that?
I think Thomas has been more into this, but it was a request by MFA. As I recall, they are working with DNR on a project and just needed this. We ran that through Don, and he, considered it acceptable request as well. So it's recommended by the staff.
Yeah. So,
Second reading.
Steve, second reading. Second.
This is bill number 2025-21, ordinance number 4043, an ordinance authorizing the city of Bolivar to declare and file restrictive covenants on certain real estate at the request of the Missouri Department of Natural Resources.
Roll call.
Hagesser,
Aye.
Aye.
Rains,
Aye.
Ballard, Neal,
Aye.
Wilson, Moores, Beck,
Aye.
Motion passes. Item H, Liberty Utilities Town Hall discussion. So it was brought up that might be beneficial to have a open dialogue with the community in a town hall setting, and wanted to discuss that and see what the board's position, setting a time, any workflow, if that was something that the board wanted to do.
Looking like you have a question. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I mean, it was, like we talked about it, like it's something I think that would be beneficial to do. I know there's been lots of questions on social media, lots of, talk, and sometimes the rabbit holes and answers that are out there aren't, always the correct answers, the right answers to kind of, so I would like to have a centralized area where people can come and ask. We can maybe get some information to them, answer some of the questions they have in a controlled setting. I think it would probably benefit everybody, the city, and the constituents included. So I would like to have one, a date. I guess it would be, I'm open for anything, so
Are you wanting it before the election?
I'm open. I mean,
I'm wondering if, I realize that truncates the timetable a little bit, but if For any voters who feel like this issue is relevant to the decision that they will be making in April, I didn't know if we wanted to try and see if we could get something set up so that could happen ahead of time, or if that's just we're close enough now that we need to
The concern I have is I would rather have it sooner than later.
Sure.
And, if we say, hey, we're not going to have it next week, well, the election's the following week, where our meeting is not till Thursday. So then we push it off another week, and then it's like, hey, the potential is you could have, 3 new positions up here, and hey, your first week in office, we're going to have a town hall, so then do we push it another week until, my professional or personal preference is I would rather have it sooner than later. So,
Are you anticipating inviting a Liberty representative to be present to answer questions if there are questions posed that the Liberty representative feels they can answer?
I mean, I don't see why not. I would,
Okay.
I would like that. I know I've talked to the PSC, which I think I've got the PSC on speed dial now, and they're going to send a representative down just to kind of listen, because they have a billing investigation case going on, so they're kind of trying to gather, information and people to talk to and things like that. So to me, it's just, I would like to have a forum where people can just have a dialogue, ask questions, get some answers, that, and maybe help them with any questions that they have. So that's kind of the whole purpose that I would like to have for it. So,
Does anyone feel that we should not have such an event?
I think we might want to also go into it with some guidelines and
Okay.
maybe some curbs, so to
Sure.
speak, so that
Sure.
it doesn't just end up being a free-for-all and screaming match kind of a thing. So it's informational, more of a trading of details, of factual information, of just. And I know the emotions are probably going to be high for some people, and that's perfectly fine too.
That's probably
But
a fair statement.
I know it's fair. But I don't want to limit people, but I don't want it to go on forever and ever and that kind of thing. So if we end up doing it, I would just as a suggestion, maybe offer 3 to 5 minutes to say your piece, to ask your questions, to interact, kind of a thing, so we can keep it kind of moving, and we can all go over this all again if it happens. But for whoever's here, if we can keep, at that time, maybe keep from repeating themselves, so we're not just getting the same dialogue every time if somebody wants to come and talk and bring information to us, just to kind of keep it moving forward, keep it productive, keep it civil.
Well, and effective, right?
Yeah,
You want it,
yeah.
we want
100%.
this to be effective. We want it to accomplish the goal, whatever the goal is for this
Yeah.
meeting. We want to make sure that we're moving toward that goal,
Right.
and we want to clarify. Very big fan of clarifying expectations going into something, and so even clarifying expectations as far as what this body would be able to do with the
100%,
information that is
yes.
received,
Right.
other than facilitating having a Liberty representative available if they want to come, having someone from the PSC available if they want to come. And I think part of that could be an opportunity to clarify the power that this body has in this situation. So I'm a big fan of all of that. I was just addressing the threshold matter of, Dusty, you said you think this is a good idea. I think it's a fine idea. I wanted to make sure that if someone was like, actually, I have big reservations about this, that they had a chance to say so before we just kind of plowed ahead and acted like it was a done deal. So,
Right.
My only issue,
yes.
I'm a big fan of transparency. It's one thing that I hound on. I think the only hard thing is trying to get everybody here in a meeting with the PSC and Liberty. And so I know I have a couple of dates that I am on shift that are hard in stone. So
Sure.
like I said, I'm all for this. I think, going to the constituents and constantly getting phone calls and trying to relay the same message of, hey, this is what happened, here's where we're at, here's what the city can control, and here's what we cannot control. I think that's a great idea.
So I mean, if everybody is, and so it sounds like you're okay. You're more concerned of what's my availability.
Yeah,
so,
I want to be there.
So
but
what does availability look like for everybody?
I know personally that first and second, if we are trying to do it before the election, the first and second are my days I am not able to make it. And again, this is going to be hard too because we have to get the company Liberty to okay that date and the PSC as well. So
I don't know that we have to.
What about the 4th, a week from Friday? Okay.
Third?
3rd is
My opinion on it
Lincoln
is,
Days.
I don't mind at all having a meeting, but without Liberty being there, I mean, they're the only one that can answer the questions. I mean, obviously, everybody knows that the city has really no control other than.
Well, I don't know that.
I was going to say, I don't know that everybody knows. And, you know, one of the questions I've gotten a lot, and, you know, just to me, you know, your insight for doing, you know, being in that business for, you know, 30 years is there's a lot of questions people have because it's unknown. They don't know. Like the question I get all the time is, why can't Southwest come inside the city of Bolivar? You know, and there's just kind of explain, and you know, and just, you know, things along that, talking it out, explaining, you know, this, and I think that goes to Brian's point of the trans.
That was my point being that, you know, there's not a whole lot as far as Liberty's rates or what Liberty does that the city can do, or they have no control over it. But as you know,
You speaking to your mic? Sorry.
There's a lot of people on there that putting out a lot of false information.
Sure.
And for us, I don't think, I mean, we need to have someone there that knows the information. Like if the PSC guy comes, that would be really great. And if Liberty would come, but I think if we establish the meeting, that more our input into it would be probably limited to what, I mean, we might know.
Right.
Dusty might know an answer
Sure.
to one.
I
might
probably
know an answer
won't.
to one. But
Right.
but I'm just well, just like you're saying, if Southwest can,
Yeah.
everybody. I mean, there again, everybody doesn't know Southwest can't serve the city, but they can't, you know. So, you know, that's out of the question. You could get that over right away, and you can look up the information. I've heard people saying that they would like to have another utility. Well, Missouri is not. You can look on the website. Missouri is not. You can't choose your utilities. We're operated under the PSC, so that's why it's set up here. There's about 8 or 10 states that you can pick your own
Right.
utility, but you can't in Missouri. So it, like a lot of people are saying, it is kind of like a monopoly, but that's why the PSC is supposed to control the rates. Whether they do or not, that's the next question.
Do we know how likely? I mean, so we're assuming first of all that Liberty will want to send a representative, and they might decline to do so. Or do we need to talk to Liberty and the PSC about their availability before we set a date? I mean, the longer we wait to set a date, the later the date's going to get set. But
I mean, I almost say we pick a date and ask them if they're available, and if they're not, maybe see if there's something we can do, you know, different.
ask them to pitch an alternative date or something.
Yeah, instead
Zoom
of saying
in something.
Yeah, that
I don't
I would
disagree.
rather do that.
I mean,
so.
I certainly feel as far as giving people information, right, it's more helpful to the citizens for Liberty to be there or for PSC to be there than, say, for me to be there, because my source of information is I would be asking them and then passing it along. I would like to be there because I would like to hear what our citizens have to say and be informed about their concerns and see what all goes on. So in that sense, like, I would like to be there, but it's more important to me that other people come who have actual answers if they are able and willing to do so. So that puts us back to looking at dates. Is this week too early? I mean, I know we ran through dates next week, and it didn't sound like dates next week were necessarily Wednesday, I guess, maybe.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Both representatives can't make it, we'll reschedule, is that what we're saying? Or
I mean, we will, if they can't make it, but there's not a date that they can make, then I don't know that we should, oh no, I'm busy all of the days forever. So I don't know how likely that is. But yeah, I think that some flexibility, I would certainly be flexible about trying to move around a date that would accommodate getting people the information that they're wanting.
I don't think you're going to get somebody from Just City on a Friday.
So my recommendation,
I could be wrong, but
can we just ask these two entities of, hey, what's your availability the next couple of weeks, and then we can get
Again,
something out to the
my only
public?
concern is the longer we push it off, like if we could do it tomorrow, I would make a motion right now to let's just do it tomorrow, and cross that bridge. But I would, my thing is, again, I think it would be great if we had both of those entities here. I don't think it's like a deal breaker if one of them is like, hey, we're not going to come. I still think we need to have an outlet where we can hear from the constituents. This is clearly the number one concern that everybody has. And even if there's not, the obvious answer, hearing from them, seeing what, there may be an answer or a solution that comes up in the conversation. There may be some information that comes up in the conversation that I think just not having a conversation and just like, there's nothing we can do. I don't know that that's my opinion. I don't like that solution. I would at least like to have the conversation in person with the people that I have conversations with on social media and text message and phone calls, give them an outlet to, come in here.
Okay, so if Tuesday and Wednesday and Friday of next week are out, what about Monday or Thursday of next week? I'm just going to start knocking out dates.
I do Monday, Tuesday.
You're out Monday and Tuesday?
No,
or?
I can't do Monday or Tuesday.
Oh, you can do I thought you said the
7th and 8th, I'm free.
No, sorry, the next week. So it would be
So yeah, I'm only free Thursday.
the
Friday.
31st. On the 31st is what I was looking at. So the
I'm free.
31st or the 3rd
Yep.
were not dates we had mentioned.
I can do those two.
It's fine if they don't work. I just wanted to actually check them because we had 1st, 2nd, and 4th knocked out by people's availability.
I'm good with either of those.
Did we establish a time?
We did not. We are.
Let's
I
get
am.
day
I am.
first.
I am. Yeah, I know. I mean, I know
The
that.
time means a lot to me. I guess,
Sure, and I assume it means a lot to. I want. I want
constituents,
people
yeah.
to be able to attend. The other option is what days this week? How quickly do we want? Do we want to hand a group of dates to say Liberty and say, can you make one of these 3 dates?
Are you saying first, second, fourth, third is available or not?
I'm saying I'm asking people if they are available on the 31st
And the
or
3rd.
on the 3rd. So those would be Monday and Thursday of next week. And then I was also wondering if there were any dates this week that we wanted to explore as a possibility, realizing that constituents may also need time to make arrangements to be present, especially if they are responsible for caring for others who, that they can't get away from that or they have work or whatever. So.
Well, my opinion is it's probably no quicker than the 3rd because, if you're going to have people come, you have to get the information out to them.
I don't disagree. I'm just trying to see what dates are off limits.
I like the 3rd.
The 3rd. Thursday the 3rd. Thursday
Oh,
the
wait, is
3rd.
that-
Sold.
Thursday the 3rd.
Sold.
As a
Is
date
that
to
weekend
pitch
days?
to the different entities.
What about Wednesday?
If nobody else can come, we can
Okay.
look at another date.
Sure.
You said, John, that time is a significant factor. Is there a particular time on the 3rd that
I
would?
was curious if anyone had any ideas. I assume this would be an evening event.
Yeah.
I would assume so. Yeah.
36. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're at here.
Did you say someone say 6? Is that what we said?
yes,
6 o'clock on Thursday the 3rd as the tentative date. Further details once it's if a representative can come at that time, and if a representative would come if we moved it. Because again, I don't want to move it for someone who's not coming either way. Is that yes?
All right,
on the
so
same
you
page?
want staff to reach out to Liberty
Yes.
and PSC. Anything else?
Justin, do we want any guideline, like any official prepped guidelines from us, from council, about how any of this should be structured? Guidelines for constituents that could be part of a social media post that says, "Please come with your comments prepared, 3 to 5 minutes or whatever."
I think just.
Yeah.
Do we trust staff to prepare information on that, or no? Do you not want that responsibility? Which is fair.
No, I mean, we can, Jill and I can work on that.
Okay.
We just need details on what the board would like executed.
Mhm.
Sure. Well, I think Justin's point of if there are potentially a lot of people, in order for everybody to have an opportunity to speak, that means people can't take a big chunk of time. That's just
Sure.
how time works. So I think a 3 to 5 minute, I mean, that's what you get when you come to city
Mhm.
council meetings.
Yeah.
So I think
Thanks for concession.
that is, oh,
Yes.
I think that's fair, to just let people know that there is some kind of time limit.
Peanuts and Cracker Jacks.
Okay.
If we know if representatives are going to be here, I would include that in the social media posts, like, please come because these people intend to come, if we know that, if we're confident of that. Other information that we think staff should include?
Do you think this location is suitable for
Oh, that's an excellent question.
what we expect numbers-wise? I mean, I don't know. It
Yeah,
could
I
be
don't
3
know.
people, or it could be 300 people. I don't
That's
know.
true. I mean, the ones the PSC had were at the American Legion,
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll
and that wasn't big enough.
ask if this isn't suitable, what would be a backup location that might accommodate?
That we haven't budgeted.
And a short notice might not be available.
I just say we
Rec
try to do
center.
it here. And I mean, we have microphones. The podium has a microphone. I think this would be a suitable place. I mean, where else are you going to find a place in 2 or 3
I agree.
days that
Well,
are
I mean, we
gonna
have
be
a rec
able-
center. So
The acoustics in the rec center are awful.
that is true.
Awful.
That is true.
Unless the church would be willing. but I don't
Or the
know.
university.
Don't allow cussing in church.
Well, let's
just
just
do it
plan
here.
on here. If we get more than enough, then we'll make
Jill,
adjustments.
anything we're forgetting from a public information standpoint that
Mm-hmm. 6 to 8, 6 to 9,
6 to 9.
and
Yeah.
kind of go from there.
Oh, that's a big
6:15.
3
That's a big
hours.
window.
Yeah, I say 6 to 8.
6 to 8.
6 to 8.
6 to 8? I think that seems a little more reasonable.
I think also, I mean, as Dusty and I were speaking about this just now, right? The goal is to have this as soon as possible. If it turns out that one event is insufficient, there's nothing that stops us from having a second event. It might not be before the election, but at least this would have been something. If people don't get a chance to talk and they still feel like they have more questions, we absolutely can have as many of these as we need to have for people to get their questions answered and all of that. So I don't think we have to necessarily do everything in the very first go around.
I think that's a great point. I mean,
So-
you know, because right now it's the unknown. We could have 10 people here. We could have
One
1,000
person
people here. So
Would we be recording it?
Well, that was my next question, that we could stream it, and you want folks to be able to ask questions online, or
I would,
restrict-
and that's I wouldn't mind streaming it like the same platform we do with our city council meetings, and you know, yeah, which is I think that's what we were shooting
That's
for,
fair.
is to have it. Yeah. So
Yep, and that helps
Mhm.
make it, that
Yeah.
people, if there are frustrations with the location, that there's a reason for the location.
Yeah.
And I think what Thomas was also asking is, do we want there to be a way for people to submit online questions if they are not here in person? Or is it you need to be here in person to submit the question,
I mean, I feel like
knowing that some people won't be able to?
I mean
We've got the ability for them to ask
Sure.
questions online.
So will we be able to have somebody monitoring the live stream for questions? Or some other mechanism for them to submit questions other than on the live stream? I don't know. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would agree. Yep.
I think that I know there is some kind of program where people can submit, because sometimes in a meeting setting, they'll want people to be able to anonymously submit questions. So I know there is some kind of an interface that can do that. I just don't know if we would have time to have put up whatever the website is and have people go to the link to submit a question. Because I know that's been done at other organizations that I'm familiar with, but.
The only way to do that would be through YouTube.
Okay. But we could have somebody watching the YouTube feed for comments that are questions specifically and feeding them.
Somebody dedicated.
Yeah, it's someone dedicated to be watching that during the meeting. Okay.
we might, just to throw this out there, Kyle brought this point up, we might have a max occupancy issue if
Sure.
it goes over a certain number. So just be aware of that. I mean, we could only, for safety reasons, we might have to ask people to leave.
Sure. Do we have any possibility of overflow space that we could broadcast it to? Like, are there screens or something where we could say there's not room in here, but you can still be watching, or is it just going to be watch on your phone on YouTube because this is first come, first serve?
Yeah, that would, I think
And that's the
that
whole
would be
point
the
of
easiest
putting it
thing.
online. I mean,
yeah,
Sure.
that's people,
That's fair.
everybody.
for capacity, then.
But we
direct
might
them
have
to-
some folks out there, so I don't know what that number is, but that's something that we can look at. And again, we may not even come close to
Yep.
meeting that, but I just want to bring that up.
Sure. Okay.
So the question I have is, as far as the sharing, is it for Liberty across the board? Is it for Liberty electricity? Is it Liberty for water and sewer? Or is it Liberty billing? Or is it just everything about Liberty?
I don't know. I can't answer questions for Liberty.
Yeah.
And so, when I talk to constituents, it ranges. Why is the city selling the electric to why did we give away everything we have? So again, I don't feel comfortable answering questions that I don't know because I'm not Liberty.
Well,
and
that's
so
what-
those
that's
questions
what
are
I'm
going to
saying,
be.
though, but
Those questions are going to be.
I say
uncontrolled.
people will probably ask questions ranging
Yeah, it's
from
gonna be
everything
whatever.
that you just said.
so everything
Yeah.
about
Mhm.
Liberty. But
Well, and honestly, is part of the conversation about utilities more broadly? And do we want to ask if Southwest wants, and make sure that Southwest knows about it in case they want to send, if someone has a question and they happen to be on Southwest and they want to ask a question. Part of this is how utilities are handled in the state
Yes.
of Missouri. What Southwest can and can't do, what our options are. So I don't necessarily think that it's a bad idea to include
No,
any
I think
utility
we could reach out
providers
to Southwest and I
that
think
are
that, yeah.
relevant. And then just, if you have questions about utilities, knowing that that's probably going to be mostly
probably
Liberty.
somebody at Southwest,
but-
he thought they would.
Anybody can pull some strings over there?
Yeah.
You know anybody over there?
I know some people over there. But,
Sounds like we have a plan.
Okay.
I want to just ask this question. I apologize if it's not. Could you do it, say to the public, this is the first in a series. We're going to have several of these, and you could pick topics for each one so that you don't get a rush of everybody coming in saying, I've got this problem and I've got this problem, so that you narrow cast.
For those at home who are watching, who the question was, could we have it like in a series? The only concern I have about that is if we do, let's say, get the PSC and Liberty and Southwest, and the struggles it was to get all of us together. For one, if you said, hey, we're going to talk about water here and sewer here, and then. What I assume is going to happen is it's, even if it was just talking about water, somebody's going to ask a question about water that's then going to jump into the sewer system. That's
Right.
then going to jump into the, the electric and then the billing. So,
Because the billing is for both. Like, you
yes,
get
because
bills
even if
for
we
both,
try
you're
to
saying.
do that, I think it's all going to encompass, I'm assuming just from the engagement on social media, that there's going to be a lot of people here. We could show up and there could be 3 people here,
Right.
so
you'll need a
it's
series.
one of those, we're trying to plan for if there's 100 people here, but there realistically could be 3 or 4 people here. I'm assuming there's going to be more, but, and so now if there's 150 people here and we go till, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and there's 50 people who said, I wanted to say, great, okay, you know what, let's schedule another one. Then I think that's, something that we could, potentially do. I think just doing that preemptively may be a lot of work, and we may not need it. So, but no, I totally understand that, because that would make it easier, but I
It certainly
get it,
could be
so.
what we end up doing going forward, depending on how this
100%.
goes. I would say, and this, Jill, you can do with this what you will. It might be useful to tell people if we know there's a capacity issue with City Hall, to say in whatever social media thing we have, like, capacity at City Hall is limited, but this will be available for streaming if anyone is not, like, I think it helps people to, like, you need to try to be there on time, try to get in and get a seat if you're wanting to come and say something, and include information like questions can be submitted via YouTube, but just to let people know, because I know it's always a bummer if you show up somewhere and you didn't know that capacity was going to be an issue and nobody warned you. It's always nice to have that information up front. So I don't know if that's a good idea or not from a PIO perspective, but just do with it what you will.
What does the board want to call this when we put this out? Do you like town hall?
Liberty Town Hall?
Town hall. I think town hall is fine.
Sure,
because it shows that it's not there's not an action, like it's not going to come here and then the board votes on something. That's not what's happening. It is we want to hear from people and kind of facilitate connections.
I just want to make
between
sure
those
I
people.
get
But I think town hall's
exactly right what you guys are looking for.
Great.
Okay, so we've got that. Everybody on board? Since we're in scheduling things, move on to the calendar events. So with the election on the 8th, which is normally would be our work session meeting, I think that we had tentatively kind of said to push it back a week to the 15th. That'd give time for the election results to be certified and everything. That would kind of be our reorganizational meeting. We're sworn in and do all the housekeeping
usually do the
things.
Thursday because I think they have up to 10 days to certify. I mean, I don't think they'll need 10 days to certify, but I know historically we have met the Thursday following our normal Tuesday.
Can I make a recommendation? We do the 15th.
Have done Thursday. Usually we have the results the Friday before.
Yes, I didn't think there had ever been.
So we can always wait till Friday before.
Oh, and call it on
Don't
Tuesday if we already have
them.
the.
Yeah.
So plan to have it Tuesday, and if for some reason the results are not in on Friday, we could potentially, like whenever we're getting ready to call the Tuesday meeting, if the results are not in hand by the notice period for the Tuesday meeting, we could bump it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to the Tuesday. I'm just saying historically that's my memory has been it's
Yep.
Thursday, but either way I think is fine with me. You could have it on tax day if you want to.
15th is good.
So you want to do it on the, are you okay with the 15th?
Yeah, no, I'm fine with the 15th.
Okay. All right. So if everybody's okay with that, we'll do our work session on the 15th, and then our regular session for April would be the 22nd, which would be the next week. So do we want to push that back a week or just leave it
It is
the
a
same?
five. It's a 5 Tuesday
meetings at once. I mean, the meeting on the 15th is realistically going to be pretty short.
Yeah.
I doubt there will be a lot on there anyway. So
Keep them the same.
Okay.
So our work session will be on April 15th. Regular session on the 22nd.
That will mean 3 weeks between the regular session and then work session of the next month, if that matters, because of the extra Tuesday in April.
So if we have any pressing, I guess we can do it
No,
real quick.
Work.
Emergency meeting.
Okay.
If we don't have new people that need to be sworn in and have unelected people having meetings, but that's okay.
All right.
Sale is April 26th.
28th
Right.
is what we just had in our agenda.
That's
Friday.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Don't get those two mixed up.
Sorry. Nope, that's fine. I was like, I just saw citywide and I was filling the rest in my mind, so that was not a good
My
idea.
garage
Sorry about
sale's a
that.
national
26th
holiday.
is the garage sale. 28th is the cleanup
Right.
afterwards. Got it.
Yep. Also on the long range schedule, you got May 3rd is the CMH Heroes for Hospice 5K, 10K run. It's also the opening weekend of Missouri Beef Days, the street festival, and the parade. And that night is the Boots and Bling. So lots of things coming up in the next 2 months.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to enter executive session?
You also want a motion for a break?
Yes, please.
Do
Is
I have
5
a motion to
minutes?
executive session with a 5-minute break?
5-minute break. Okay. I move that we go into executive session pursuant to RSMO 610.021 subparagraph 1, legal actions, cause of action, or litigation involving a public governmental body and any confidential or privileged communications between a public governmental body or its representatives and its attorney. RSMO 610.021 subparagraph 3, hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting particular employees by a public governmental body when personal information about the employee is discussed or recorded. And RSMO 610.021 subparagraph 13, individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment after a 5-minute break.
Second.
Roll call.
Wilson.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Aye.
Sagasser.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Ballard. Philbeck.
Aye.
Morse.